All right, it's 7 o'clock. We're all here, right?
Yep.
If so, I'll call the meeting to order. And we here in the conference room have the benefit of an American flag. So we're going to rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance, as we typically do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The agenda was in your packet. First of all, why don't we just double check, is everybody's audio working? Sheila, I think we heard you.
Okay.
Ryan?
Yep, check 1, 2.
Okay, thank you. And Robert? Okay, I don't hear you. I saw your lips moving though. Let's go to Bill. I don't see Bill, but Bill is out there somewhere. Bill, can you speak up so we can make sure we can hear you, please?
Can you hear me?
Ah, we heard you there. Okay, how about back to Robert?
I'm on now.
Okay, very good. So everybody, is it important for them to have their audio muted, or can they leave it on all the time till the dog starts barking?
If we start to hear feedback or loops, they'll have one.
Okay, so for the time being then, it seems like it will be okay if you have your audio on, as long as it's quiet in your room. And we have also Brandon and Anna, and we have numerous guests. Who is it? Mr. Dobitz, Miss Katie Johnson, and Madison Taylor. Am I missing anyone that has shown up? Okay. And I assume all of you can see that if you click the participants button or something. You're probably all getting to be real pros at Zoom meetings, some more than others. All right, so approval of the agenda. Your agenda was in your packet. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Were there any changes that needed to be made?
There were not.
Okay, none that we're aware of. So is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented in your packet?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Nagel moves to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thorpe seconds. Thank you. Is there any discussion regarding the motion to approve the agenda? Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 That was 4 ayes, and those opposed say no. Motion carries. We've already recognized the visitors. Has anyone new joined? Okay, so public communications. There was a thank you card from Deb Van Deventer in our packet, as was, oh, and also the CHI Oaks Hospital noticed that they had canceled their live fundraiser. As I'm sure you all know, their online fundraiser is underway with their silent auction items. So if you're so inclined, please support that, as they're an important partner in our community. Any other public communication? All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to the action items. The first item is the school election. Well, are you able, I mean, the microphone can pick you up, all right? You want to update us on that?
Basically, there's an executive order in which you don't need to have a physical polling place at a precinct for the election. So with this being said, we need you guys need to make a motion if you wish to not have a physical voting place, but to require all ballots be absentee ballots through the mail, which I'm working with the county. So if someone does an absentee election or absentee application through the county and they mark school on it, she will forward it to me.
Okay, and so if I understand correctly, the action that is requested here is if we desire to only have mail-in ballots for our June, whatever date, 2nd election, that we need to take that action.
Yes.
We cannot just allow April to say that's the way it's going to be. And so We've already taken the action to set the election for Tuesday, June 2nd. The ballot is also in your packet. Pleased to see that both Robert and Sheila filed for running again for their positions on the board. And the other ballot question is whether or not we should publish the minutes of the school board in our official newspaper. And the absentee ballot application is also in your packet. Is there a motion in regard to a physical polling place? If there is none, then we will have a physical polling place. If it's okay, we'll figure out how to do it. What are the wishes of the board?
Would we have till next month, or it has to be done this month?
I have to do a publication by April 23rd.
So it is required then that we, if we do not take this action this month, we would either have to have a special meeting to do it, or
You would
or
just keep the
we
way it
would have
was.
a
Yep.
physical polling place. And when we have a physical polling place, that requires an election board of 3 people,
I have 4 workers.
4 workers.
Yep.
And so if we have only mail-in ballots, what would happen with our election workers?
They're having a Zoom training this afternoon on it, but from what I understand from the executive order is that I would only need to have 2 judges. And I'm not sure if one would be me, where I would do the initial counting, and then another judge would come and inspect it and then verify those before we send them to the county. The other thing is that the county has already did the motion and everything to make theirs only mail-in ballots.
For the primary election?
Mhm.
Okay. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll make a
I'll make the
motion to
motion.
have a
Thorpe is
or
recognized.
mail-in.
Robert Thorpe moves to limit the June 2nd election to mail-in ballots only. Is that correct, Robert?
That is correct.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that then.
Thank you. Ryan Rosendahl seconds. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? And I tested this yesterday by I went online to the North Dakota Secretary of State's, and I actually completed my ballot application. And then I emailed it to the county auditor, and because what I remembered, I noticed that on the absentee ballot application, there is a choice. You can or you can choose not to mark school election. Well, I can remember in the past that absentee ballot applications, they go to the county. They don't go specifically to our business managers. So it is, I emailed it to her and I said, what will happen if you get these, Wanda? And she said, I already been talking to April. She will forward them to April, because of course April has the ballots. The county does not have those ballots. So it seems like all the mechanics are in place to get this done properly. How will Oaks Public Schools publicize this fact? Should we approve only a mail-in ballots?
We'll put something in our newsletter that goes out at the end of the month, and then also on social media to direct them what to do.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a comment on the instructions there, April. At the bottom, it says ballots must be postmarked no later than June 2nd, the day before the election. Wouldn't that be June 1st?
Yes, it would be.
Well done. And Wanda Shepherd, the county auditor, did tell me that the Secretary of State's office will be mailing these applications to all voters in the state. So everyone should get one, but they may or may not understand that our school election will be held by mail only. So we will publicize that accordingly. All right, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, I think for simplicity, let's just take a roll call vote on each vote today.
Nagel,
Yes.
Schmitz,
Yes.
Rosendahl,
Yes.
and Thorpe.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes too.
Oh, yep. At least
Thank
forget you.
All right, the motion passes 5-0. All right, the next item on the agenda is the handbook personnel for 2020-21 school year. Quick question is, in the past, did we have 2 handbooks, one for teachers and one for classified, or did we only have one?
There was a one.
Okay, so maybe it was personnel and student handbook and
Yep.
activity handbook, which will be yet to come. All right, anything to say about the handbook as presented in the packet?
The one thing that's different is that I don't have each individual policy listed. It's just, it'll be hyperlinked to our online policies. I asked for clarification if you actually need a physical handbook, and no one at the School Board Association said yes or no. So, I mean, it's not too hard to print if we need to have a physical handbook, which I'll probably have one complete one in my office in case anyone wants it.
Okay, that was a question that I had, because in the past, I think many of the policies have been
In there,
printed,
yep.
many or all. And so now the entire document is what you see in your packet, which is what, 5 or 6 pages
Yep,
with
yep.
a few. Okay, and just to be clear then, we are adopting this, and between now and the end of the next school year, numerous of these policies will, in all likelihood, be changed either in a major way or even in a minor way. But what is our thought about what policy prevails? What, you know, when they sign their contract, or what we have in place?
So at the beginning of the school year, each employee has to sign a sheet that says, yes, they've acknowledged that they've received the personnel handbook and that they've read and understood all the policies. And then they sign it. So it kind of puts it back on the employee to make sure that the policies that they're reading are what they know of, I guess, the most current ones.
Okay, but then should we change a policy next October, for example? Is that the policy that they're expected to follow, or is it what?
Yep, it's when it's approved.
Okay,
So then that would just be another one of the, this list will help me better than the whole book, because then when we do like our meeting highlights, I can put a note in there that please the changes on this policy.
okay. You got any comment?
No, I've discussed this in previous years that I've been in court in my prior position over this, and the Southeast Region Career Tech Center did not win on that, because we assumed the same thing, that the policy that we signed and it was updated would need to be followed, and the judge found that the policy that the employee agreed to when they signed was the one that should have been followed, not the new one. So, but I think that would differ depending on, you know, case by case.
Sure.
And I think all the policies, I think honestly it's common sense that as long as employees know what we're talking about, what we're doing, it shouldn't be a problem.
And if there is a major change, we can have them re-sign the acknowledgement form.
Okay. All right, any questions? Any other questions regarding the personnel handbook? If not, is there a motion regarding the personnel handbook?
I'll make a motion
Uh,
to approve the personnel handbook for 2020-21.
Nagel moves to approve the personnel handbook as presented for the 2020-21 school year. Is there a second?
Second.
Would that be Bill? Okay.
Yes.
Bill Schmidt seconds. Is there any discussion? Any further questions or discussion? Okay, I have one item that I noted. On the page 5 of the handbook, which is page 15 of our packet, just a clarification under disclaimers and definitions, at-will status. Says that unless under contract, employees are at will. But we've discussed from time to time that our coaching staff, if they are also teachers, any extracurricular assignments are on their contract, but the language, which I think you'll see on the contracts that are upcoming, there is language in the contract that indicates that the coaching or extracurricular assignments are not considered contractual for purposes of contract law. And that's something we may want to discuss further at a retreat sometime. Because what we're doing is good, but it may not be best practice according to North Dakota School Boards Association. But for the time being, that's what we have. Any other questions or comments about the handbook? If not, let's call the roll.
Thorpe,
Yes.
Schmitz,
Yes.
Rosendahl,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Meal.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. The personnel handbook is approved. Staffing. We do have one resignation in our packet. We should approve that, I suppose.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right, as you were probably aware, that Ms. Lund did not sign her contract for next year. And now we do have her letter of resignation in our packet. And we typically do act on those. So is there a motion regarding the resignation in your packet? Rosendahl. Oh, there you go.
Yes, I'll make a motion to accept her resignation.
Rosendahl moves to accept the resignation of Ms. Lund. Is there a second?
I will second.
That's Robert Thorpe. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Nagel,
Yes.
Schmitz,
Yes.
Thorpe,
Yes.
Rosendahl,
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. New hires. Ms. Jelinski's contract is in there, but I'm almost sure we approved hers.
it would just be for Abigail Hess and
Oh.
Sean Couragean.
Okay,
They all
so,
got lumped in there by accident.
okay, so Jelinski and
Miller.
Miller, we approved last time.
Yep.
So
Oh, Audrey.
Audrey Hovel?
She's in here, yep.
I don't know how to say. And then
Anyway, Audrey,
Abigail.
Abigail, and Sean, 3 elementary teachers.
Yeah.
And I noted that, well, none of them really say their teaching assignment, does it?
Nope, they just said that they're teaching.
The Miller one, which is already approved, does indicate that he needs to complete the social studies content praxis test. But the other contracts are just teaching contracts and the position is unspecified.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to approve the 3 new hires, Audrey Hovel, Abigail Hess, and Sean Couragean. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve those 3 contracts.
Nagel moves to approve these 3 contracts. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rosendahl seconds. Is there any discussion?
Just a quick question. With the elementary phy ed position, how long was that open, Craig? That one filled extremely fast.
Yep.
Because I remember hearing about that in the middle of March, and we had them hired by, within 2 weeks, probably.
Right. The opening for that position, I'd have to go back and look. April, do you remember how long it was open publicly? It was probably only a few days.
Yeah, I
So I
don't,
was contacted by a couple people who didn't know it was open that were interested, but that was my question.
Yeah, probably only a few days.
Okay, any other questions or discussion regarding the motion to approve these 3 contracts? Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Nagel,
Yes.
Schmitz,
Yes.
Rosendahl,
Yes.
and Thorpe,
Yes.
Meal.
and Meal.
Yes, thank you. Motion passes 5-0. All right, then 2020-21 contracts. They are not in your packet, as I think was noted on our meeting announcement that they're available if you want to look at them, but all other teachers who have not resigned were signed their contracts, and their contracts have been updated per the terms of the negotiated agreement.
Yes. Yep.
So, but we do need to approve all of those.
I think should.
Yep.
Okay,
That includes our counselor too, and then principals,
2 counts.
superintendent, or was that in the last one? The principals and superintendent? No,
Prin-
1 counselor, because other counselors with
Oh,
SRCTC.
true. Yes, thank you. We-
Jamie was in the last one.
Okay, so, but this should be everybody with the exception of the open music position, so you
Yes.
approving it should be.
Yep, everybody.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Okay, so did we approve any at the last?
Yes, we did. We approved the ones that had turned them.
Had
in, right?
already
Yep.
signed.
Mhm.
Okay, so all of the remaining teaching contracts
Have been signed.
have been signed. So we would like to act on a motion to approve those additional contracts. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the remaining contracts.
Thorpe moves to approve the remaining contracts. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Nagel seconds. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Schmitz,
Yes.
Thorpe,
Yes.
Rosendahl,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
and Meal.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Staffing action items are complete. For school policy review, we have 4 second readings. BDA, which is procedure for adopting policy. FGCA, searches of lockers, which is recommended. Let's go back. Policy is recommended. FGCA is recommended. FGCB, searches of school, student personal property is also recommended. And finally, visitors in the school, KAAA, is also recommended. We had first readings of these policies in March. Today is for second reading and final approval. Is there a motion to approve these 4 policies for a second reading? Is there a motion to approve?
I'd make the motion.
Thank you. Is that Bill? Yes. Schmitz makes a motion to approve the 4 policies for second reading. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thorpe seconds. Any discussion or questions on any of these 4 policies? each of the policies lists at the end some complementary documents. There is an exhibit listed for FGCB, which we don't need to approve if it's an exhibit. Do we use an exhibit? Do we have an exhibit related to
We
that?
do have a big binder full of exhibits
Okay.
that I'm going through. Yep.
Okay. So I had made a note on. Okay, and I also looked on KAAA, the visitors policy. There is a KBA listed as a complementary document. I did not find that in our policies.
Which one?
It's on KAAA,
Okay.
complementary document KBA, relations with the news media. I didn't see that we have it, but so then I'm wondering if we don't have it, should it be listed?
No, it would be removed.
Okay,
I'll make note of that and look for it.
okay. Any other questions, comments, or discussion regarding these 4 policies for second reading? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Nagel,
Yes.
Rosendahl,
Yes.
Thorpe,
Yes.
and Schmitz,
Yes.
and Neal.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. We have no first readings, but you'll all be excited to learn that the North Dakota School Boards Association has done a comprehensive review of our policies, and they came up with only 6 pages of items that, well, actually, the good news is I think that the last 2.5 pages, or the last page and a half, no, 2.5 pages, don't need any attention, but there are a number of, I think primarily just housekeeping on many, many policies. And I think April and I will work together to try to prioritize and make that a sensible process, kind of like we went through all the supplementaries a year or so ago. And that, like, for example, they say a number of them, they say that we have 2 policies. And I don't know if that's simply because we adopted a new policy and we failed to move to rescind the old policies. So in the coming months, we will be presenting these in small chunks and trying to clean up and get our policy where it needs to be.
And I'd note that you doing this and working on this saves us $1,500 because the North Dakota School Board Association, when they sent that out, said, we'll do this for you for $1,500. So I appreciate the collaboration on this. You're going to start specifically with the ones that are required.
Yep.
I mean, the ones in green. So thanks for doing that.
Yep. April's already started on this, and she and I can work together a little bit to come up with an efficient way to get this done. All right, next we have, oh, okay. I thought we were, I have the minute, oh no, I have the elementary principals report. I thought that was the minutes. So your agenda says activities director's report, but since spring is always so busy with so many activities, but they're all canceled. So is there anything we can do with any of our activities? I know National Honor Society has been doing some service projects. I know Garrett participated in the virtual state DECA conference, and we had kids that submitted their projects, which were judged to the extent that they could be. But with regard to athletics and archery, no activities happening. But we did have Archery Awards. Was that earned based on previous, that we had the announcement that we had 3 or 4 teams that won state, but it had already been done?
Yep. So what the NASP requested that each coach submit the highest scores of each archer and the North Dakota tournament that they attended. And so it turned out, I believe all 3 of our teams placed first at state. So the elementary, middle school, and high school, and we had 3 scholarship winners.
Great. Any other things like that are happening?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
As I'm aware of.
Okay, any questions or comments about activities? If not, we do have our two principals' reports and both are with us. So we can unmute Anna, I guess, if she's not unmuted.
You guys got my report, but we're just kind of getting into the flow and I guess the routine of doing online learning. I think it's going well. I've been talking to parents and students and trying to get some feedback. The teachers, seem to be just chugging along, and I know they'd rather have their kids, but they're able to see them face to face on Zoom meetings, and they have at least one Zoom meeting a week with their students if the kids can get on. I think our balance is going to be as it comes up, like those families that are unable to do the schooling or just won't do the schooling. What are we going to do with that? And I think those are some things that we're going to have to come up and figure some answers out to as we get further along. One of the items that I had on my report was about the science and social studies. I think we are at the point where we met our PLCs, our science and social study PLCs. I think we've met our goal for the year, even without being able to meet the rest of the year. They've got their priority standards figured out. We'll just get those written up and ready to go in a format for next year. And then next year we'll tackle, when we can meet in person, our scales. The last time we met was I think it was a Monday or a Wednesday after district basketball. So things were a little bit sluggish at school. So we didn't get as far as the first times that we met, but they'll get there. They've got everything arranged. They know what they need to work towards and they'll figure it out. Those two committees are a little smaller, tighter, and they'll do fine on that. Our math and ELA have a few changes, but it would just be something that the teacher found, something in the vertical alignment. So they'll fix those and those will be ready too later on this summer. We're gonna have to figure out a time if we don't get back to school when those teachers are gonna be able to meet by Zoom, or somebody will take over and type up redo the document, just those little changes that we have. So they've kind of been doing that all the way along, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But other than that, I don't really have anything else unless anybody has any questions for me.
All right, any questions for Mrs. Sell? Any questions? Hearing none, let's move on to Mr. Beta's report.
Good morning, everybody. So
Morning.
I provided the report for you guys to look at, and echoing what Anna said, we're chugging along, we're adjusting and adapting, but this past week went really well. We're keeping track of the kids that we're not finding and trying to get a hold of them, and that's probably, I told Craig, that's probably our greatest difficulty and challenge, is finding the kids that aren't turning stuff in or aren't showing up for Zoom meetings, and that can be a combination of tech problems or just lack of support at home or things like that. So that's been a challenge, but that's across the whole state. So I actually have a Zoom meeting here at 8:30 with some area principals, and we discuss some things that we're seeing locally and some maybe ideas on how to address those challenges. But otherwise, our teachers have been doing a really good job of communicating with parents and students. And like Anna said, I think if this turns into a new norm, we're just going to keep adjusting and adapting, and things will just keep getting better week by week, or as best as we can make it without having the kids in front of us, which has been a challenge. So otherwise, we've sent out student feedback surveys every Friday. That's been positive, and that's helped us as educators change what we're doing and adjust accordingly. So yeah, not a perfect system, but happy with the progress we've made. And then I guess the final thing I had in my report to you guys is we'll be doing some class registration stuff. Carrie, Jody, and myself have been finishing up a class list to give to students and parents, so that if you're a sophomore, you'll get one sheet that says, here's all the classes, here's how many you get to pick. Talk to your parents about it, and then Carrie's going to open that up on PowerSchool for them to self-register, so that we have an idea of what class sizes could look like for certain courses and electives. So that'll be messy, but we're kind of out of options at this point in time.
When do you expect that list to be ready for registration, the listing of classes?
Carrie and I and Jody were finalizing it yesterday. I think we're closer, if not done with it. And so Carrie's going to start drafting up an email, and she's going to then blast out to grade specific parents and students. So like ninth grade will get an email just to them, but it'll go to the students and the parents and work their way all the way up. So we're hoping to have that done this week is what the plan is, unless something unforeseen happens on Power School or something like that.
Okay, you mentioned you get student feedback. Can you share any comments about, maybe not so specific, but can you give any examples of feedback and how the staff, what has changed with regard to that feedback from students?
Yep. When I send that email out, I send it out on Fridays, and I just ask them 3 questions: what's going well, what's not going well, and how can we improve? For example, some of the feedback we had after the first go around was we were assigning a lot of work that wasn't as purposeful and more work than what they would have had if they were in school. And it was difficult to try to get all that done across the board because typically they're all getting done at the same time. So we took that feedback and made assignments more purposeful instead of making them a lot. Instead of doing 5 assignments, let's do 1 or 2 and make them really purposeful in what we're trying to learn. And then I got feedback last week from the kids, and the majority of them were like, that was much better. It made a lot more sense, and I could see the purpose behind the assignment. I wasn't just doing it to turn something in. So just an example of some feedback we're getting from the kids, since everybody's home situation and responsibilities and duties are different.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. Brandon, what's kind of the process? What's the accountability for students who are not doing work, not turning in stuff, like you say, not attending Zoom calls? What's the process, I guess, for that? What's going to happen with that?
Yep, great question. So first step is the teachers are obviously going to be communicating to the kids. So that's probably them sending emails, that's doing Zoom calls, that's on Schoology trying to communicate with kids that aren't getting stuff done. If still no sign is heard from that student, then those teachers are going to communicate amongst each other and say, have you seen John? Have you seen where John is? And if the teacher's like, yeah, I got him here, he's doing this, he's doing that, well, then we know it's just one class and he's accounted for somewhere else. If we still can't find John and we're emailing parents and parents aren't responding very well to the teachers, then on Friday, that's where I'm making personal phone calls and reaching out to staff and parents and saying, what's going on? Is there something that we should know about? Is everything working? And just go through the thing. And most parents are really supportive. A lot of them, I think, just don't really know what else to do with the kids, when if they're sophomore, juniors, and seniors, and they should be taking care of their stuff and they're not. It puts families in a different spot that they've never been before either. So that's what it looks like. And for the accountability piece, if the kids aren't turning stuff in, their grades are still tied to it. The really hard part is, okay, you're having kids that grades are taking a nosedive, and some of the things are out of their control as far as if they're taking care of. We had one example of a student that's taking care of about 5 to 8 other kids in her family, helping them get their work done, and most of them were elementary kids. So, well, do you penalize that kid when they're getting 5 to 8 kids taking care of, food, everything, right? Doing everything. So there's just those unique situations that we got to kind of take a look at. But overall, the grading point or the grading part is where a lot of kids will see that accountability, and most parents have access to the kids' grades on Power School, so they get notifications of that.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Ryan?
Yes, it does. Okay. Thank you.
So just a thought, let's say you have a student whose grades take a nosedive this spring, and are they going to be, if they get an F or a D, are they going to be ineligible for football or for volleyball, for example, if we're able to play in the fall?
Those are conversations we're having amongst principals, and I've heard some schools, not locally, but statewide, some are saying we're just going to pass over our kids. Well, I'll tell you that, and then you might as well shut everything down, because you're not giving the kids much incentive then to get any work done if you're just going to say you're going to pass everybody gets the same grade or whatever. So, I think there needs to be some accountability there, because, like I said, the feedback as the staff has taken it is really scaled down how much they're giving and still making it very purposeful. And the kids have the devices all are connected to the internet. So like all the tools are there. It's like most cases in high school of how do you determine what motivates the kid and the accountability piece behind it. we hope we don't have to go through that as we get closer to the end of the semester. As far as if a kid would fail, would they be ineligible? I guess that's a conversation and a discussion we need to have before we get there.
Or if there could be, if somebody would be deemed to be ineligible, even if they're not in activities and they clearly didn't get their work done or learn what they needed, if we need to make some provision for, if we can go face-to-face over the summer to get them back where they need to be.
Yeah, those are conversations too. Just not knowing what the future holds, what guidelines are still going to be here, or if things are going to get back to normal. Other schools are having those same conversations of what do we do with them before fall semester and how does that work? Gosh, I think I was seeing yesterday on the news there are some schools that are talking about just holding all kids back. This wasn't local in North Dakota, of course. This is somewhere nationwide. They're saying we're just going to have all the kids repeat that grade to finish it, which I find to be pretty tough on the kids. But all kinds of crazy discussions you never thought you'd have.
Some fake news, right?
Well, just unbelievable stuff that you see. So, but those are some, that's why I really enjoy getting together with those principals on Tuesdays. I get to talk locally and like, hey, what are you guys seeing? And we're all talking the same talk. Like we're all having the same challenges and successes, but some of those conversations of, okay, what do you do about kid X, Y, and Z when they're not doing anything? Do you just push them through and say, oh, next fall, everything's good, we're going to start over? Or do you have some accountability? Or, there's those discussions.
Any other questions for Mr. Beta or Mrs. Sell? If not, thank you both for being here this morning and for your excellent leadership and keeping us on track. Next, we'll have our superintendent's report.
Thank you. The first one is the 212 shout outs, and I want to say that this has been very inspirational for me. I even brought this up. I was on a call last week with 53 superintendents from across the nation, and the common theme was that we all had a portrait of a graduate. So we were on a call, and we got to break down on Zoom into breakout rooms of smaller groups, and we had to answer the question, what's been the most inspirational thing for you as a superintendent among this pandemic? And I said the way that our community is embracing and supporting and uplifting our school with positive comments has just been wonderful. So I have quite a few 212 shout outs, but as always, I think they're important to physically read through. So here we go. I commend the Oaks Public School Administration, teachers, support staff, kitchen personnel, and school board who have gone above and beyond during this crisis to help our students be able to continue to learn while practicing the health guidelines set forth by the CDC and our state. I was pleased to hear Governor Burgum mention OPS during one of his speeches this past week in regard to the school already having an education plan in place. Keep up the great work. And this came from Denise Erlinson. The next one, the shout out is for the parents of students at OPS who have taken over the role as teacher to add to parent, provider, nurse, doctor, counselor, and friend. It is a very unprecedented time, and yet you have taken the bull by the horn and jumped in with both feet. Thank you. Our family wants to thank all the hard work and planning you showed during these unbelievable circumstances. Everyone deserves a huge thank you and a pat on the back for pulling all the long hours to ensure all our students are receiving the best possible learning tools during this unexpected crisis. A big thank you to all. We appreciate everything you are doing. A special thanks to the Curbside Lunch Program. You've gone above and beyond with everything you are doing, and the amazing front desk staff that always has friendly solution to anything we've called about. Keep up all the hard work. You are all appreciated. And kudos to anything else I didn't mention. I know there is so much more hard work going on behind the scenes. It makes me proud to be part of such an amazing community. And this came from the Grolution family. Mrs. Lynch has been absolutely amazing during our transition into distance learning. I cannot express enough how easy she has made this. I can contact her about something and she replies right away. She will do AR tests at almost any time. You can tell she truly loves her students and goes out of her way to make them feel special. For her first year of teaching, she is knocking it out of the park. Keep up the great work, Mrs. Lynch. Thank you so much for the amazing lunch staff for providing breakfast, lunch, and snacks for the kids. It has been such a great variety of fruits and vegetables that the kids can mix and match to get their favorites. Thank you. I continue to be amazed by the entire staff at our school. They not only do their jobs with competence, but with compassion. I feel this starts at the top. Share my thanks and all, please. Yes, we are Oaks. Bobby Malmberg. Hey there, I'm not sure who I need to be thanking, but I want to let you know that I am beyond grateful for the meals that my kids have been receiving. It has helped me out tremendously. I cannot thank the school enough for doing this. I truly appreciate it. Sincerely, Amanda Nash. I'd like to give a shout out to all of my coworkers here at OPS. They challenge me to be a better teacher and human being every day, but they provide the support when I most need it. When I have needed help, not one person has turned me down. OPS teachers, custodians, cooks, paras, office ladies, librarians, tech squad, you are truly amazing. Mrs. Lynch is an example of a fantastic teacher. She has went above and beyond during these unusual circumstances. She is organized, super organized, cheerful, and my daughter is always so excited to join her Zoom calls. She even drove 16 miles one way out of her way to wave and say hi from a distance. Out of the many things my daughter is learning in her class, that is one memory she will remember for the rest of her life. In my daughter's words, I've never had a teacher come see me at my house. It's always just the town kids. Very cool, and thanks for leaving a lasting impression. And the last one we have is, Miss Taylor is so kind and cares for her students. They feel very special in her presence. She is a valuable asset to our teaching staff. It is obvious she chose the correct profession. My family prays for her daily. So a special congratulations to all those. April, I didn't miss it. We've had so many coming in.
No,
That,
I've missed a couple of yours.
okay. So,
Nope, I have all of them.
yeah.
Super, yeah.
Awesome. The next item there, the COVID-19 updates. I've been emailing you, and so I don't really have updates from what you received Friday, but I thought I'd open it up. Do you have any questions for me specifically regarding COVID-19 and our planning and what we're doing and where we're at?
Any questions?
Okay, the next item is FlexMod review. I sent you the email that had a PowerPoint presentation in it, and Brandon and I met with the staff via Zoom initially and talked about the need for changing FlexMod dramatically, the schedule that is, due to staffing changes with Sherry going from 4 days to 5 days a week and our music position transitioning. And then really at the same time, we opened up and looked at data that was shown in there of all of our ACT scores and the attendance and graduation credits. And anyway, so it was really good that it exposed a lot of the challenges that we haven't looked at as closely as we probably should have in the last 3 years. I think another huge benefit was that we've included SRCTC staff in on these meetings, so they're part of it and they can identify things that they've seen challenges with from their perspective. Brandon and I and the staff met again this last week, and we agreed on a number of things. One is, in order to make the FlexMod schedule continue to work for us and adapt to things that need to be adapted for equity, whether that's conflicts or whether that's equitable time of teaching for each teacher, we've stated that we have to start over from scratch with a new FlexMod schedule. And that process is going to include many staff members, teachers, SRCTC staff will be included. We agreed that we have to have this new schedule functionable and workable by May 21st, 2020. If we cannot make a schedule that is going to function and work and fix the things that we know that need to be fixed, then we've agreed that we'll transition to a 7-period schedule with modifications to that schedule to accommodate the benefits that we've seen in FlexMod. So goal number 1 would be to totally redo this schedule and maintain FlexMod if we can. Goal number 2 would then be to transition to a 7-period with accommodations. We're going to continue with the process in a different way of the FlexMod evaluation task force. So Brandon has used information from Pulaski School in Wisconsin, and we've created a survey that will be for 7 through 12 students, specifically a survey that will be for parents of 7 through 12 students, and a survey that will be for our staff. And he's already sent that out to his teachers to have them vet the questions and look at them. And we plan to send those out. And the ultimate goal of these questions will be to identify benefits of FlexMod's, challenges of FlexMod. And actually one of the questions in there is, do you prefer FlexMod schedule versus a 7-period schedule? And that's in there. So that information will go out. We'll utilize the feedback from that in terms of how we're developing, adapting the schedule that we need to have done by May 21st. Let's see here. I think that probably covers that. We'll provide the feedback to you so there's transparency on what that is. But basically, those surveys will be what the FlexMod evaluation task force goals were originally, just that we were going to have a group of people come up with ideas of how we get information out. And due to the pandemic, we know we can't have public forums, we can't do things like that. So we know it's going to be surveys. The one thing that we may come to you with a request for the school board to adapt is the teachers, and Brandon and I have discussed about possibly asking for a consideration to raise the minimum requirement for graduation credits, which a concern I hear in the public often with FlexMod is our kids aren't in school enough. And that would be one way you as a school board could increase the rigor, so to speak, for our students by increasing the minimum number of graduation credits. So Brandon, did I miss anything from the FlexMod piece that you could think of?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that's where we're at. Like I told the staff too, and we met with them, you know, since about January, I've been working on trying to fit some of these new classes and add different classes due to personnel changes and still make it all work. I couldn't do it, even looking through different companies that offer software that try and do this, but nobody has it. So I think where we're at is we're going to try and build it from scratch again and see if it satisfies all the conditions and improvements we need to make. And if not, then we got to figure out what the next step looks like. But those surveys, I haven't decided, or we don't have a deadline of when those are going out, but they will be going out. And it'll be great to see the information come from that, from both the student side, the parent side, and the staff side, just as a set of data that we can compare. So I don't think you really missed anything, Craig.
Okay, our next meeting with the teachers to work on the schedule from scratch will be this Thursday at 4:30. We're going to do it via Zoom, and then we plan to use a Microsoft Excel document that will be shareable, so people can be at their own location, the teachers and Brandon and I, and be able to communicate via Zoom and work on this at the same time. So excited to get to work on that, and it's exciting that we have more input from staff. And specifically input too from the SRCTC staff. The last two things, I got two things actually. One is the track project. I emailed this to you yesterday. I know this is really short notice and it's not an action item. It's not budgeted, but we've talked about it. You know, I've not talked to Sam lately, but the last he had contacted me is that he believed Lean Transportation would start their work in the first part of June. And I've not heard anything differently since then. I reached out to Jake Kelly to get information on what would it cost us as a district if we wanted to do the dirt work on the inside of the track prior to the track being done, so that if down the road a football field were moved there, you wouldn't have to be having heavy equipment go across our new track. And so the quote that you had there is in 2 phases. Jake worked with Philip Holman on that quote. Actually, if you go out the track now, you'll see that there are little orange flags out there that identify where the football field would fit it within that area. But my thought on this is that if you are thinking as a board that you want to do this, I think you're going to have to consider doing a special board meeting before the May board meeting to approve this, so that Jake and Philip would have time to get their work done prior to Lee and Transportation coming. Now, if you're not interested in it, that's not a problem. But I at least wanted to bring this to your attention so you knew that we talked about it, we discussed it, and it was looked at prior to the track being done. So any questions for me on that quote from Jake or Jake and Philip?
I just want to clarify, I looked at it, I guess, and that dollar amount on there didn't include any of the next thing, and I would imagine that would be at least the same amount as that first. So you'd be looking at a minimum of another 50,000 is how I read it.
Explain, what do you mean by that?
But then that letter from Mike, it said, trying to pull it up here. Their bid didn't include, they said they'll call that phase 1.
Yep.
And maybe I missed something. There was no phase 2 in there, was there?
Yeah, there was. Phase 2 is leveling, seeding, hydro mulching with irrigation and labor. That estimate's another 27.6. So it's the 27.7 and the 27.6 if you're to do phase 1 and phase 2 right at that 56,000 mark, somewhere in there.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't see that second part. I was just took a ballpark guess there. So.
And in conversations I've had with Philip, he recommended a minimum of 2 growing seasons for the grass before you ever start using it, just for future thought, I guess.
Right before the meeting began, it's still it's still the superintendent's report, but Craig and I talked about, that we only received this Dakota improvement estimate yesterday, and I think it would be too soon to expect the board to act on it today. However, if we wanted to move forward with it, and Lean Transportation is going to show up in early June to start on the track project, we would need to act on this no later than the next board meeting. And in fact, it might be better if we had a quick special meeting to act upon it. But I don't feel like I should expect you to make this decision today. But if you feel differently, please speak up.
So we did not budget for this. How do you propose that we pay for this?
Good. That's a good question. We don't, like I said, it's not in the current budget. This pandemic is putting us in a unique situation that we won't be expending as much of our budget as we originally planned due to fuel, due to activity trips, due to those kind of things. And from conversations with April, the 56 would easily fit within what we anticipate the savings to be, and that's pending that the school continues distance learning for the remaining part of this year. But you'd have to be basically utilizing budget dollars that were planned to be used in other places that would be here. So I guess it's a unique situation, but ultimately it's general fund dollars.
If Sheila's done, I have a question. I think going forward, I'm just personally have a lot of concern. All businesses across town, especially the ag economy, I don't think we're going back to normal after this. I think we need to proceed forward with as much savings as we can from this year, because I don't see how going down the line in the future we're going to have as much money as we had before, let alone trying to add more projects at this time. It's my personal opinions.
I agree completely. Be pretty tough to throw this $60,000 project on top of everything else that's going on, and then possibly running short and having to increase real estate taxes in the near future. I don't think it's justified.
Any other questions on the track before I do my last little announcement piece? Thank you for the feedback. And again, that's my whole goal was just to say that I had done this and bring this out to you. It wasn't trying to push you in one direction or another. It was to say that the information was out there. We talked about it. We discussed it, and so that it was wasn't something of, oh, we should have thought of that, years ago. The final piece that I have is that the SRCTC, the Oaks Public Schools, and Becky Undum and her Grow Rural Towns were collaborating and going to be doing a 4-week pay it forward, keep it local initiative thing. And it's going to be really simple. It's going to basically be a bingo card. And we'll put this out on social media. And the way that you earn spots on the bingo card would be to do and spend money locally. So one of the bingo slots may be ordered food out, from a local restaurant. Another one could be purchased shampoo and conditioner from your salon that's closed, or something along those lines. And then the winners of that get bingo, if there's multiple ones, I think there'll be a drawing. If there's just one, that person will get it, and they will get $25 in Oaks Bucks. So there'll be 4 weeks of $25 Oaks Bucks winnings for that. But the real thing and what I'm going to promote with our own staff is that use the school board approved continuing paying everyone. We're getting paid. We need to continue paying forward to our local community. The businesses that have always been there supporting us in and out, and now we can help flow money back and continue flowing money to them. So it's a local community support, so to speak, that's rather simple, and yet I think will help people's mindsets of, remember, we got to keep spending money here. So that should go out this week, and I think the first week will be next week for the bingo. And we'll open it up. It won't just be SRCTC and Oaks Public School staff that can participate in bingo. We'll allow all community members to participate, but it's going to have our logos on it, and we're the ones that started it and are driving it. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I guess backing up maybe to the COVID-19 update, there's no indication that the governor is going to say that schools should reopen on May 1st or May 10th or anything, but I think of May as the time when kids, if we were eventually to go back into school this school year, I think of it as time when kids just want to get outside. We have all these field trips planned. Can you give us some indication of what it might look like if we go back to school, come back to school in this school year?
That's a really good question. I think that if we are able to come back for this school year, I think it's much like what other states are talking about, and what our governor's talked about, is that there will be conditions and things that we do differently to minimize the spread of probably all disease. And I don't know what all those would be and what we would all approve, but even you watch national news and states are creating these reopening plans for the entire state. I anticipate that we would have something along those lines. I can tell you that a member of the Department of Public Instruction, on a conference call I was on last week, and I asked a question about if we could get a date possibly, or a date of when they're anticipating making a decision. And the answer to me was that, remember, Governor Burgum closed all schools except for essential personnel once we had one COVID-19 case in the state. And they said, you can take that or leave that for how you see fit. But when we had just one case, we closed it. So I don't know when, or I know it will happen, but we don't know how long it'll take for us to get back down to where we don't have any cases in North Dakota. But time will tell. I guess it's like Governor Cuomo from New York said, is that this isn't the beginning of the end. Maybe it's the end of the beginning. I don't know if that's a way to look at it, but I'm always hopeful for a miracle that we'll wake up and they find a vaccine that's going to happen instantly and we'll be able to get it out there. You know, without hope, I guess we're hopeless. So.
Okay. Let me just add at this point, last week, Superintendent Basler hosted her first, what evidently is going to be a weekly call open to school board members. For the initial call, they asked that only the school board president or their designee be included in that phone call. I did participate. It lasted, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour last Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. They had capacity issues and also open meetings laws issues, so they didn't want the potential for quorums of any one school board meeting, of any school board to be a possibility. So that's why they asked for only one participant. I did get my notification yesterday that there is another call scheduled for tomorrow, April 15th at 6 p.m. They have more capacity available, but they're recommending that participations, more board members can participate if they want. If more than one member is participating, they recommend that we post it as a public meeting. But if any of you are interested in listening in on that, well, it's not just listening in, it's call in and ask questions via Zoom or Teams or something. Please let me know and I will share that meeting information with you. And again, if more than just me is going to be on it, even if only 2 of us are on it, they are recommending that we post it as a public meeting. So do let me know as soon as possible. And if you want to be on that, I'll have April post it and we can all participate if you like.
I got that email too, but I don't plan on attending.
Okay, anyone else interested? It was interesting. I found that, some of the questions I found interesting and pertinent. Others, there were a couple questions that were really, really specific to a particular school district, and that wasn't real helpful to me. But one thing that Superintendent Basler did mention, and I think I passed it along in an email to you, is that she's promoting that there would be a teacher of the year from every single county in North Dakota. And then from those 52 or 53 teachers of the year, that's where the North Dakota Teacher of the Year would be selected from. And I just passed that along to Dr. Steinhoff and said, I'm certain that we have many teachers that would fit that, but I'm hoping that some can be nominated and selected from Oaks Public School.
And the deadline for that is extended, I believe, to May 8th.
I think that
Yep.
sounds right. All right, any other questions for principals or superintendent before we move on to the minutes and financials?
I'll just add it now, I guess, just after talking about the track. I'm sure Craig and April are going to be spending a lot of time here working on the next year's coming budget. And just to reiterate my earlier feelings that, if we have money left over from this year, I don't think we need to be trying to find a place to spend it. I think we need to be looking forward, trying to plan going forward. Hopefully it turns out fine, but I just can't see how it's that we're gonna have to proceed in the future years with less than we have now. So at least start looking at it sooner than later, is my thoughts.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I would say do bear in mind that now, I believe hopefully Sheila's busy season will be tailing off here soon, and she and I need to get back to our classified staff compensation. You know, the teachers were under a 2-year contract or a 2-year negotiated agreement. We worked on the administrative staff, so we still have classified staff, and we're going to need to meet and make that proposal for you for the next board meeting. Anything else? If not, let's move on to consideration of the minutes. The minutes were in your packet. I did have one thing that didn't look quite right to me. Under school policy review, with regard to in the first paragraph, the GACA correspondence courses, I agree that we wanted to change the word will to may, but the next 4 words, for reimbursement of courses, in my view, the changing the word will to may did not relate to reimbursement of courses. It related to whether or not the course could be taken. So I'm proposing that we just strike out the words for reimbursement of courses in that. Does anyone have a different recollection or understanding of that? Do we need to move to amend the minutes, or can we just have a consensus?
So you're gonna change the policy?
No, I'm only suggesting the minutes.
Oh, yep.
Okay.
Yep, we can make an amendment for the.
Okay, so now I see. So on the bottom, the last paragraph of the policy changes the word may, will to may. My thought was that it was only changed up here in the second paragraph of the policy. And you had it changed there as well.
So we can, I mean, we can at the next, so this needs to go back to will, right?
I don't,
This is fine.
I think the policy is fine. I'm just, I'm thinking that the minutes are only referring to the reimbursement of courses, and it actually refers to the taking of courses, perhaps as well as the reimbursement
Oh,
of
now I get
courses.
it, okay.
Anybody else have a comment or any other issues with the minutes that you'd like to discuss? All right, is there a motion with regard to approval of the March 10th minutes? And we also have special meeting minutes. So
Do you want to make an amendment for reimbursement and?
I would
Taking
just strike the word reimbursement in the minutes for reimbursement of courses. Is that suitable for everyone? Shall we have a consensus, or would someone move to strike the words for reimbursement of courses in the minutes?
I'll move to do that.
Okay, there's a motion to amend the minutes by striking the words for reimbursement of courses. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Nagel seconds. Is there any discussion on the amendment to the minutes? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. Let's take a roll call vote on that amendment to the minutes, please.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Rosendahl,
Yes.
Thorpe,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Neal.
Yes, the amendment passes. So now I'm looking for a motion to approve the amended minutes of the March 10th meeting, and also the March 19th special meeting minutes, unless there's any changes or additions to those. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll make a
I'll make a
motion to
motion.
approve the minutes.
Nagel moves to approve. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Schmidt seconds. Any discussion? Any further discussion of the minutes? Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Nagel? Roll call. Nagel?
Yes, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Thorpe?
Yes.
Rosendahl?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Neal?
Yes, motion passes. Now let's consider the revenue expense reconciliation and cash balances reports. Any questions, comments, or a motion to approve those 4 reports as presented in your packet? April had a few notes on the expense report. Hopefully answered any questions you might have. Is there a motion for approval of those 4 reports?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thorpe moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Schmitz seconds. Any discussion, questions, anything you want to highlight about those reports? Pretty routine.
Yeah.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor, or rather, let's do a roll call. That just works better.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Rosendahl?
Yes.
Thorpe?
Yes.
Nagel?
Yes,
And Neal?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. There were 3 or 4 or 5 pages of bills in your packet. So anything you want to highlight on that? I see there was one note on fraud correction again on this.
Yep, so that was the reimbursement or the, what we received, the credit back on our card.
So that's all perfectly cleared up
Yep.
and we're off and running with our new identity.
Yes.
How
Okay,
is my question for how are we gonna, or for reimbursement on the school lunches then? Because they're all free now, is my understanding. Is that correct? Or-
Yes, so in May, they'll open up the claim window. So every day, Jara has to have the counts of how many meals she serves. And then once they open up the claim window, then I'll submit it. I believe it's $4 a meal. Is that, so it's a higher reimbursement rate than our regular free and reduced.
good question. Any other questions?
On the first page of the invoice, there was one for elementary furniture. Just curious what that was for 17,000.
That's our annual, typically every year there's furniture replacement. It's typically done at the end of the school year. And since the custodians had time to do it now, they just moved up the order so they could have it done now. So it's a regular expense we'd usually do at the end of the year.
Okay, thanks.
I noticed we had a bill for Oaks Truck and Trailer for repairs and towing. What did we have towed?
bus number 9.
Was it out by your house?
No, I don't remember where it was, but they had another bus come pick them up. I remember the boys talking about it.
Yeah.
There was a bus that broke down in Guelph. That was I don't know if that finally got there.
Oh, that was a different one. That was number 7. That was stuck in reverse. Your mom talked to me about that, and I told her she could drive it, but only backwards.
Any other questions on the bills listed to be paid? Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the bills as presented in your packet?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Rosendahl moves to approve the bills. Is there a second?
Second.
That sounds, yeah, Schmitz, thank you. Any discussion? Any questions or any further discussion on the bills? Hearing none, please call the roll for approval of the bills.
Rosendahl,
Yes.
Schmitz,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Thorpe,
Yes.
Neal.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Does anyone else have anything for the good of the order? Our next meeting scheduled for Tuesday, May the 12th at 7 a.m. At this point, we have no reason to believe it would be anything other than a Zoom meeting like this, but we will see. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank particularly our administration. Sometimes they get forgotten, but they are working diligently to get us through this and providing leadership and guidance for all of us and our staff. Many, many thanks to our teachers, our paras, all of our staff who are doing things a little bit or sometimes a lot outside of their expectations. And a big thank you also to the families for their patience, their understanding, their support of their kids. Please, families, reach out to your teachers and principals if you have questions and needs. I was encouraged, we got the update from Craig last week. I've been concerned about our seniors. Do they know what's expected of them in order to complete their requirements, to stay on track for their college applications, their scholarships? And I was encouraged to see that we had reached out with a Zoom meeting, and I'm hoping that went well. We hope the best for all of them. I'm hoping to be able to present or have Bill or someone present those diplomas on the stage in late May, but if not, we'll do what we have to do. So thank you everyone for your continued hard work, diligence, understanding, patience, and being flexible. With that, unless there are any further comments, give everybody an opportunity to say something if you'd like. Hearing none, I'll declare the meeting adjourned at 8:22. Good work. Thank you.